Good morning, friends, or I guess afternoon, evening, wherever you might be. If you're some of our friends from across the pond, welcome. I am Barrett Laurie. Thank you for stopping by my channel. I am so excited to be talking today with Hannah Palmer. I have been stalking Hannah on the Authortube space for about a year now. And so I am thrilled to have finally hooked her onto our little happy space here. So real quick, I'm going to run through the rules for anybody that might be new. If you're new here, the way this interview works is the first half is my questions. If you have a question for our guest, which I hope you do, just denote it with a Q and we will get to it in the back half of the interview. And we have a fun rapid fire section in the middle. So let me move on to introducing you to the fabulous Hannah Palmer. Hannah is a thriller and horror author from a seaside town on the south coast of England. When she's not working her day job, she can be found writing in any of the local cafes or scribbling ideas down for the many novels that live in her head. As well as writing, Hannah posts regularly to YouTube about the craft of writing and the joy of reading. You can also find her occasionally posting on Instagram or Facebook, most likely when she's procrastinating, finishing off those final few edits of a novel. I can relate to that. Hannah is currently working on 3 projects because one is never enough. And her second novel, One Road In, was released on September 9th, 2021, with future projects being announced later this year. With that, let me welcome our guest, Hannah Palmer. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce yourself to the room beyond what I just said about you.
Cool. Hello, I'm Hannah. As Barrett said, I am from a tiny place called Folkestone in the UK, which is on the sea. I write thrillers and I write horror and anything that kind of leans into some weird stuff. I'm most happy there. I'm terrible at writing romance, but I don't mind reading it. And yeah, I'm thrilled to be here. When I'm not writing, I'm not doing much else aside from reading, to be totally honest.
I love that. That I love. I'm real quick running through chat. We will get around to everybody in just a second with questions. Hello, Rachel, Morgan, Suey, Richard, Devin, Maggie, everyone who's here. I appreciate you. All right, Hannah, let's hop into it. So my first question for you is, you talked a little bit about the hobbies, but why don't you tell me specifically in your personal life what you do besides the reading and writing? What else could we find you doing if we were a fly on your wall?
I would most likely be procrastinating. That's probably my biggest hobby.
If that can be a
Whatever
hobby,
it is I do.
I'm winning at the hobby. So
Yeah, me too.
yeah.
I kind of dabble in a few things. So like dabble in art, kind of playing around with clay, that kind of visual art stuff, a little bit of graphic design. Yeah, used to dabble in music. I kind of still do, but it takes up so much time. It's kind of parked for now. But yeah, I'd like to get back to that. That's a 2022 goal.
Okay, cool. So like writing your own music? Like
yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That's great. Would you ever consider doing any content on that or just showing kind of what that process is like for you?
Maybe.
Sorry.
That wasn't written down. Yeah, no, maybe I will. Yeah, my other half is a professional musician, so he's pretty helpful in that space. I can't really play any instruments that would be particularly useful, but I do sing. So I would consider it. I think about it. I don't quite know how I would set that up. I don't have the most professional setup, so I'd have to.
You're an amazing singer. You're getting like rave reviews.
Thanks, Devin.
And Bethany, yes. Oh, see, and me. Oh, wait, you're talking about me singing? Okay, I don't know what we're talking about now. I got lost. I think she means I should hear you singing. I think I should hear you singing. Well, that's cool. So where have people kind of heard you? Have you done like a karaoke thing on your channel, or like do you have some videos floating on the interwebs, or what's the deal?
No karaoke. I have never done karaoke in my entire life. I know. It's just not a thing down here. Like I think I'd probably have to go to London. I'd have to go all the way into the city to do karaoke.
Yeah. Oh, no. It's such a unique voice. I love it. So
thank you.
Now I'm fascinated. Now I'm getting on the interwebs and I'm diving deep to find where I can become a fan. So
this is I don't even know if I've told Devin yet. I think I probably have. I used to be in a band called the Calaveras, but I took a step back because I want to start publishing once a year. And the band is just, I didn't want to do it if I wasn't giving it my everything. If I couldn't give it 100% and give them the time they needed, I didn't want to do it. So I stepped back. But I do have stuff online still under that band name, which is the Calaveras, Calaveras on Spotify. We're very loud.
AS, like that?
Yes.
Progress. Nailed it. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. I'm an old. I didn't, Spotify will be something I have to figure out how to download later, but I'm going to do it.
We might have stuff on YouTube. I'm not sure.
Ooh, oh, I
I'll
can't.
look.
That's so cool. Very
Okay.
cool. Okay, very interesting. So let me ask you this. So let's talk about, let me back up first to when do you first remember that you wanted to be a writer? Or when did you first get that writerly itch?
I think the first time I really wanted to try it seriously was just after I graduated university. So my cousin is also a self-published author. He's very prolific. And he told me about this website called Inkit. I haven't been on it in a long time, so it probably still exists somewhere. And they used to hold like quarterly competitions, I think, and you wrote stories and people voted on them. And I was like, you know what? Whatever, I'm gonna give it a bash. And the first thing I wrote was this really weird, like sci-fi dystopia thing about a planet that ate people. I don't know. And it won. So after that, I was a bit like, oh, well, okay, maybe I'm not that bad at this. And then I sort of took a little bit of a break from it whilst I was finishing up uni. And then we moved back to my neck of the woods after university. And then, just decided to jump back into it.
I love that. Now, so you talk about this seaside town that you live in. So how does that come through in your stories, or has it yet?
It definitely has, more so in One Road Inn. So One Road Inn is an entirely fictional setting, but big snippets of Rose Bay, which is where it's set, and the island are taken from where I live. So in Folkestone, we've got this weird little place called the Lees, which I don't really know how to explain it to anyone that's not from the UK or hasn't seen it. But it's like this kind of man-made garden that like zigzags down a cliff face. So bits of that are in One Road Inn. And the little island is in One Road Inn because we've got islands along. Well, they're called islands. They're just rocks, really. But, along the channel and stuff. So there's like snippets of it in there.
Very cool. So now, how about your real life? Is there any part or aspect of your real life that sort of found its way into your published tales?
Yes, but again, only in One Road Inn. In number 47, I didn't even consider doing that. I don't think I'm confident enough for any like author insertion kind of things. But in One Road Inn, I think a lot of myself is in it. Not necessarily in the characters, but in the tone of voice, probably the main character, to be honest. There's a lot more in there about like mental health and like family relationships. So a lot of that kind of thing has made its way in, but it's less like carbon copy of what my actual life is, and more I've just taken little tidbits from my life and then just blown them up.
Interesting. That's interesting. So no real hardcore self-insertions.
No.
Interesting.
Apart from the music.
Well, I mean, that one I feel like is sort of, you have to, right? I mean, it's like, that makes sense to me completely. So now, knowing that you did do a little bit of music, then have you done poetry, or do you do any kind of like poetic writing at all? Or is it just for music stuff that you kind of reserve that?
I am terrible at poetry.
Well, I'm not alone. Good.
Oh gosh, I am awful at poetry. My brother is a poet and he's very good. But I did not get that gene. I can write lyrics, but no poetry. I don't know why poetry is so much harder to me. I just can't do it.
Interesting. It's not my thing. Richard says, "Don't be fooled by the rocks we've got. She's just Hannah from the block." Great J-Lo reference. I love that.
Nice.
Richard in the clutch. I love it. So what was the first story you remember telling or writing?
Oh, good question. The first story I remember writing, I think I was in year 4 at what we call primary school. So I would have been 8 or 9. And I wrote a story about a girl that didn't fit in at school, original, but she could turn into animals.
Relatable, right?
I know.
Relatable to all of us.
Pretty much, yeah. So for some reason, I had it that the main character could turn into animals, and she had to go and like solve these mysteries whilst turning into an animal. And I wrote the whole thing in an exercise book that I stole from my English teacher, and then made a cover out of fax paper and like sellotaped it to the book. My mum still has it, and it's terrible.
I love that. I love that you still have it. That's amazing.
My mum does still have it. I need to get it off her, actually. I should bring it on the channel.
At some point, yes. That I will be there 100% for that premiere. If you want to show it to us and read it to us, I will be there for that support. I love this. Everyone would love to be a shifter as a child. I kind of think that's sort of true, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I agree with that. Now, when I was a kid, we had Thundercats, which was like a whole shifter thing. So that was sort of where I think my generation got that love. Well, with that, I'm going to switch over and we're going to talk about the book of the moment, which is One Road In, which you just had released at the beginning of September. So excited for you. So let me read the blurb and then we'll hop into chatting about it. So some say at night you can see glowing eyes of fire between the trees, watching, waiting. Sadie's younger brother Ben went missing 5 years ago. No one knows where he went. No one knows who or what took him. So explain the look of guilt on Sadie's face when her mother called with the best news possible. Ben has come home. What does Sadie know about his disappearance, and what has her brother brought home with him? There's something on the small island off the coast of Rose Bay, and its glowing amber eyes are making its presence known. Sadie needs to reconcile what happened all those years ago with where she finds herself now, before it has taken the chance to tear her family and her hometown apart again. Love that blurb. So talk to me a little bit about where the idea came from.
So the idea initially, when the book first started, the opening scene was what spurred the whole thing. And that came from there's a really tiny village next to where I live called Sandgate, which is just like full of quirky little shops and kind of very lovely, but some backward people that just don't leave the area. And I was waiting there for coffee, meeting a friend there, but she was late. So I was sat on the beach, like the shingle beach, just watching these kids push this canoe out into the channel. And there were a couple of them, and they just looked really shifty. They probably weren't. They were probably fine. But I just took the idea of them doing something they shouldn't have been doing, and then just kind of ran with it. And that's on the front cover.
I love that. So it was truly like just happenstance. You were just at the right place at the right time, and the idea wiggled its way into your head. I love that. I love that. Has that ever happened to you before?
Yeah, number 47 as well.
Interesting. Okay, so the novels really do come to you. And when they come to you, and this is not in the order I was going to ask it, but sorry, it's timing. Do they come fully formed or
no?
Okay. So
no.
It's like concept, idea, and then you build out from there.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, well, let's back up and let's just talk a little bit then about your characters, specifically Sadie. So talk to me about how it's not a self-insert. You've said that. So who does she come from? Who inspired her? Where did that grow from?
I think that she is a little bit of an insert, a smidge, but she's a bit of a mixture of me and kind of my brother in a way, I suppose. I think the concept of the sibling going missing, and then the sister having something to do with it was just so awful in my head that it just came from that, and I just had to build her kind of backwards. So the concept was there first, and then I thought about the characters. But there's definitely bits of me and my brother in there. I like mannerisms and stuff. He knows it's fine.
He's not going to sue you for it. Well, so that kind of leads to the next question about what about your real life inspired the character. So it's not necessarily that the people inspired the character, but more or less the relationship that you have with your brother is sort of what made that tension.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. 100%.
And just without giving anything away, so the tension between them is, how would you describe that or how do you describe that to people when you're kind of explaining like, okay, here's the problem. So do you say, like, how do you tease it without giving too much away?
That's a really tricky question. I think what you said a second ago was right about the characters being formed off relationships, and then their personalities are kind of retrofitted to fit the relationships between the characters. Mm-hmm. I think that Sadie and Ben's relationship is probably one that most people would relate to. It's kind of the relationship I have with my brother again, actually. So maybe there's a lot more of me in this than I think there is. But it's that, when you're kids, and there's quite a big age gap between me and my brother. So we used to fight so bad when we were younger. And then there's like just this light switch moment. Like he turned 16, I went to university or whatever. And that light switch moment just like turned us into best friends. So it was kind of that shift that I wanted to get through in those characters. But in a way, it's almost backwards.
Interesting. I love this from Bethany, who says, I love the banter between the siblings. It felt so authentic. And was Bethany one of your betas for this? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know you two are close, so I figured you two would have helped each other out on that. Okay, so let me ask you this. So what about your writing process on this novel? What did that look like? How long did it take you? Kind of give us the details of the mechanics.
So I thought I had more of a process than I probably do have. When I finished number 47, the biggest lesson I learned was that I don't plan. I don't plan anything, and it was terrible. Number 47 was completely just like 75,000 words of stream of consciousness, and then I had to retrofit a plan into it afterwards, and it was just hell. So I wanted to learn from that and use Save the Cat to plan one road in, and I did that, and then I wrote it, and then I hated it. Because it felt too planned and too structured. So I ended up going back to what I was used to doing and having a very, very loose plan. I can see Richard's put get a spreadsheet. Absolutely no spreadsheets anywhere near me, ever. Sticky notes on the wall, absolutely. Spreadsheet, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I kind of had a very, very loose plan. So literally beginning, middle, and end.
Okay.
Wrote the whole thing and then kind of retrofitted a Save the Cat.
Okay.
Like layout.
You went back and sort of kind of what's that reverse engineered it basically. Okay. I love that.
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting. So it's
sort of like a lot longer.
Sort of like a Plancer method, sort of the best of both.
It's definitely a mixture.
Okay. I love that. So again, you knew the beginning, you knew the middle, you knew the end. So it was just sort of the fun and games and like all of the nitty gritty in between that you just had to go back and fill in. Do you wait for the characters to come to life and then just sort of let them guide you, or how do you think you got that dialogue that Bethany said leapt off the page?
I think I just let them guide it, to be honest. Though I'm not one of these authors that can like have pretend conversations with their characters. I kind of wish I could do that. I just don't quite have that. I don't know how to do that. But yeah, they do very much guide what happens. I think I had maybe 2 or 3 very big pivotal scenes I knew I wanted in, and once I'd written those, I went back and then just added in the like relationship stuff. I don't write in order ever, which I'm not sure helps me. I don't know. I'll let you know after book 3.
Okay.
But yeah, I tend to write the like bigger scenes first, and then I'll go back and try and pepper in like the smaller symbolism, that kind of stuff.
This is interesting. I love the small details, the way Sadie looked at her childhood home and how she's living through the change and how the house still stayed the same. I don't know, something beautiful about that. Richard says, the prose was so taut and the setting so claustrophobic. I loved it. Yes, all of the details that added up. I hope that was in your review, because that sentence should have been in your review so she could use that somewhere, because that was really well done.
Yeah.
Oh, good, because I was like, that's a great review. I love that. So kind of talk to me a little bit about, so does this one fit squarely in thriller, would you say? Or does some of your horror elements come in?
I would say this one is more horror.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it kind of sits in that gray area.
Okay. So it is horror, but we're figuring something. I feel like from the blurb, at least, we're figuring something out. We're like, we're getting to the end to find out what the giveaway is. Hannah has a real passion and verve for her genre, and it shows through both of her books. That is also in my review. Thank you, Richard. I appreciate it. Speaking of reviews, Amazon has been wonky. So if you left a review, do Hannah a favor and check that it uploaded. Yes, I don't think mine for Bethany ever went through either. So I'm going to check that as well, Bethany. And thank you for pointing that out. Reviews save authors' lives. Okay. Let me ask you this. What has surprised you about your publishing process with this book from your previous 2 releases?
Ooh. What has surprised me?
Leave this one up for people to see.
Oh, I don't know, really. That's a really interesting question. I think that maybe it's not really the publishing process, also the editing process maybe surprised me a little bit.
I still consider that part of it. So totally, I think anything from the point you finish the draft and are working to get it published, I'll count. So yeah, whatever you got, let us know. Give us your insight.
Do. Yeah, I think the editing process probably surprised me the most on this one. I think where I went back and retrofitted the plan, editing it was so much easier than number 47, where there was just this big wonky, like almost list of scenes, and I had to squish them into some kind of plan. So this one was a lot easier to edit. And luckily, my brother is an editor, so he edited it. We're quite close, and I think that, yeah, maybe it does surprise me a little bit actually hearing how natural people find Sadie and Ben. And maybe it surprises me also just how much author insertion is in here. I didn't realise, because the more I talk about it, the more I think actually there's probably quite a lot.
There might be a little bit. No, that's okay. So what would you say was your goal with One Road In?
My goal with One Road In, my main goal was to just publish something far more complex and more ambitious than number 47.
Okay. Okay. And do you feel you accomplished your goal?
Yeah, I think so. I think that both of the novels have very different strengths. Number 47 is stripped back and bare, and I don't know if you've read it, but Heinrich Ibsen's The Doll's House. It's very it's still claustrophobic. I think that's just something I naturally do. But it's a lot more bare bones, whereas One Road In, I feel like the world is there, and then there's the space to do more in that world if I wanted to, whereas number 47 is pretty cut and dry. That's it.
Okay. I love that. Well, Richard, I felt the exact same way. So let's talk about the cover. Yeah. So I agree. I absolutely am obsessed with the cover. So tell me all about it. Who created it? What's the story behind it?
So I'm incredibly lucky to have a very good friend who is a designer, and she lives locally. So meetings locally. She only started freelancing, I think, during the pandemic. So I pretty much just messaged her out of the blue and said, do you want to have a bash at a book cover? She'd never done one before. So she just said yes. And it was pretty easy, to be honest. I think she just read the first chapter. I gave her the blurb. I gave her the synopsis. I almost didn't have to tell her anything. I was like, oh, I want.
Did you have any back and forth with her, or did it just come that way?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, the actual design itself hasn't changed a huge amount. Things like the font have and the color scheme has, but the actual sketch is the original one. It's the first one that she did, so it hasn't changed at all.
So did you just sort of go a little dark, where you're just kind of like, oh, I want this darker, or I want this font to pop? It was sort of that kind of stuff. It really wasn't the artwork itself.
Yeah, exactly that.
That's stunning. So did you see a sketch that she hand drew, or was it like a graphic design sort of, was it like something she did on a computer, or was she literally sketch it for you?
It was all on the iPad. So it was all Procreate.
Even more impressive. Oh, I love artists. I wish I had it.
Me too.
Yes, we'll have to ask Ben all about the fonts in Word. He loves to talk about that. Okay, so where can viewers purchase One Road In?
They can purchase it from Amazon, or if they would like a signed one, just drop me a message and we'll sort you out.
Perfect. I love that. The description will be in the box below for Hannah's Amazon page. That's going to offer all of the options for the books that she has been involved with. So with that said, go out, run, don't walk, for One Road In, read it, and be sure and review it on Amazon. Here's the thing, guys. Even if you're not the person that wants to type out a review, please leave a starred review, because it's something. So at least do that. At the very least. Thank you. That's my TED Talk. Thank you for coming. Okay, let's skip over to your past releases and talk about number 47 a bit more, and A Season of Darkness, which I will admit is the first time I was introduced to your writing, was A Season of Darkness, and I loved. So, and I'm not a horror reader, so hey, you got me. I love it. So let's talk about, well, I guess we've talked a bit about number 47, but just give folks an overview of what the premise of the book was.
So number 47, the premise is essentially what happens when the person that you are utterly besotted by, and you can't imagine spending a day of your life without, doesn't even know who you are. Oh, that's pretty much it. It's quite simple.
Interesting. Okay, so it's sort of like it's like a stalker story. Oh, I get. Okay, so I see the claustrophobia then, or the that like sense of dread that would probably be throughout. Okay, now I'm definitely adding it to my TBR. I love this. Make book plates for your US friends.
Oh, I have. I need to post them though.
Oh, book plates. Okay, she's got them. No worries. They're there. Also, there's about 40 different explanations. Okay, well, that's good. I like that. Thank you, sir. He's being Richard. I love it. Was writing One Road In easier than writing number 47, which you've kind of already answered?
Definitely not easier.
Interesting. So talk to me a little bit about the conscious stream of thought. So with number 47, you just 75,000 words. Was it like a nano project? Or was it like those time crunch ones, or just?
No, I hadn't done nano at that stage, actually. I think I think the idea for me came from just seeing something out in the wild and then just running with it. And, you see something and you get inspired, and then you just have that itch and you can't you can't not write. So you end up just writing. I was in a cafe, which we go to all the time, just up the road from me, and I wrote basically the whole thing in there. And whilst I was in there, actually, I was meant to be working. It's okay, I don't work at that place anymore, so it's not a problem. This lady came in, and she just like enthralled me. She was so bizarre, quite sketchy looking, and I really hope I don't bump into her because she's probably lovely. And I've just written this awful book, this awful character. But she sat down and she had a coffee and she was like straightening things out, like really obsessively, and kept like looking over her shoulder as if someone was going to like come in for her. And that's the main character of number 47, and I just ran with it. And a lot of it was kind of monologue style initially, because it's in first person. So the whole thing was just stream of consciousness, utter mess.
I love that. So talk to me a little bit about short stories. So obviously Season of Darkness is an anthology, and you, Bethany Votaw, Kent Shawn, who are some of the other folks that were involved in that book?
So we had Victoria Wren.
Yes.
Yeah, Orla Hart, Don.
I haven't met Orla Hart, but I do remember reading her stories. Yes, Don White. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Charlotte, Emily, Danny, okay. Wherever Danny is.
Okay, cool. So kind of for folks that haven't read it, it's like short stories that have that are not necessarily connected, other than they're like a horror thread through them. So talk to me about your story. Was it written before the anthology? Did you write it for the anthology? Kind of give me your portion of that process.
So I've got 2 stories in A Season of Darkness. One of them is a flash piece, which is like sci-fi horror. That one was not written before. That was taken from the prompt, which was literally just write something horror-y in winter. So that was that one, really. The other one, Return to Sender, I sort of had it written before, but it was not as a short story. So it was as a plan for a novel. So when we first moved into our flat, I'm sure everyone gets this, but we kept getting absolutely loads of mail for people that just haven't lived here for years. And I kept trying to return it. And I feel like I'd written the words Return to Sender about 1 million times. And I was like, I feel like that is something, besides obviously a Stevie Wonder song. As I feel like there's something there. And then we kept getting these Christmas cards every year for this person that turned out had actually sadly passed away about 20 years ago. And then the idea for that short story it was just there. It's just like, what happens if I replied to them and pretended to be the person that is meant to be receiving it. But it changed a lot, and actually it's probably the only thing I've written that has a happy ending so far.
Interesting. So would you say on that project, did you guys work together on did you share with someone and they'd say, oh, here's my feedback, or were you kind of siloed on your own projects and then submitted them, or what was the process like?
There was a lot of group work, actually. I think how Bethany set it up was really great. So we kind of went off and did our first drafts quite siloed. Though, I mean, we had group chats on Discord and stuff, so you could always bounce ideas off people. And then after you'd done your first draft, we basically just shoved them in a folder, and everyone just had access to everyone's work. And we all just started feeding back straight from the first draft. So it was really quite collaborative.
That's great. So you really got feedback from lots of different voices, lots of different folks. Does everybody on that anthology, is everybody pretty much a horror writer in that group, or was it just because I guess Victoria is more kind of YA fantasy from like her novels anyway. So, but I'm not familiar necessarily with Orla's work or some of the others in the anthology. So I know Bethany, I know you kind of what you guys write, and Kent. But would you say for others it was more writing for the anthology or leaning horror for the anthology, or did you kind of pull people that you knew wrote those dark stories?
I think it was probably a little bit of both. I think that novel-wise and like full work-wise, most of the authors in that anthology probably weren't horror authors. I think me, Bethany, and Orla are probably the only 3. And Bethany's not really a horror author. She just, anything that's slightly weird and disturbing is Bethany's jam. So, I think all the others are probably kind of fantasy, like dark fantasy. Candice is sci-fi. Yeah, there was a real mixture. I think it was just bringing that dark element in. So everyone kind of had their own genre, and they were just trying to like rope in that kind of darker side of their writing. So we had quite a mixture. So I wouldn't say it's straight horror. But yeah, it's a bit of a mixture going on.
Interesting. Well, let me ask you this. We kind of talked about it before, but in looking at the publishing process of all three of the books, what would you say is the thing you learned about yourself in that process as a writer?
That I need deadlines. I've spoken about this a lot.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I'm definitely deadline driven, and I need to tell everyone about those deadlines so that I hold myself accountable. I am a big fan of things like Trello and like organizational apps, not Excel, sorry, Richard. Just not spreadsheets. It's nothing more creativity zapping.
What's funny is that you actually like adjacently work in finance, which is all spreadsheets. So yeah, I can probably understand why you're like, nope, no, thank you.
No, not Excel. I don't touch any Microsoft stuff. Yeah, so probably deadlines is my biggest learning.
Interesting. So will you say going forward for your writing process that you will just give yourself a draft deadline, a revision deadline? So that's how you do it. You just, and then how do you keep yourself accountable for that? Do you go to your CPs and other people and just be like, hey, push me for this?
Yeah, I tell everyone about it.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, back when I was actually putting videos on YouTube, I used to like do the updates and say like, you know, X date is when the book is coming out, and then people would start messaging me about it, like, how's it going? Is it, you know, and then I just feel that pressure. I need that pressure, or else I will just sit back and procrastinate until the end of time.
And so, well, that is your favorite hobby. So I love that about you. Where can viewers purchase number 47 and A Season of Darkness?
They're all on Amazon.
Perfect. Now let's talk a little bit about how folks can stay in touch with you besides stalking you on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Do you have access to do you do a newsletter for your folks?
I do. Yes. Yeah.
Perfect. So is that on your website?
Yeah,
Okay. So everybody's going to go to hannahparpalmerauthor.com and sign up for the newsletter there. That's going to give you the most up-to-date information on Hannah and her upcoming projects. So now I wanted to kind of turn it over to our audience for a second, and we're going to ask you guys whether you want this or not. But I have offered to let Hannah read a piece, either from anything she wants, for you guys. So if you are wanting a little bit of Hannah's storytelling, let me know in the chat box now, and we will decide whether we are going to do a little reading for you all, and just give us a yes or no, and we will go from there. Otherwise, I'm going to shift our banner and we'll chit chat a little bit about craft until we get some responses to whether they want to hear you read. Although I think the answer is definitely going to be yes. So let me ask you this. Is there a craft book that you swear by and tell people this is the one that I use for everything writing related?
I probably have 3 that I use regularly, and they look disgusting. They're not particularly original. I'm sure everyone else is going to already have owned them. That'd be Save the Cat.
Yep.
Which I have had to have 2 copies of because one got so wet in a rainstorm that pages fell out of it. Then On Writing by Stephen King.
Naturally, yes.
Which, I mean, divisive, but I don't think he's that great. But that book is really great. We'll allow him everything else. And then the last one is probably The Emotional Thesaurus.
Stephen King is the length. Like some of them are really long that don't need to be out. But anyway,
that's nothing. Me too. Nothing more intimidating than Under the Dome. I can't even hold it.
Exactly. It's a brick. So anyway,
yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
And then the third one is probably The Emotional Thesaurus.
Oh yes, I love. Someone just was talking about it on Instagram. I bought a couple of them. They are amazing. So 100% to that. Yes. Well, you've got all yeses to the reading. So I am going to let you figure out what you want to read, and I will turn it over to you to do a quick reading if you would like.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to jump straight in chapter 1.
Perfect. I'm going to give you full screen and turn it over. Take it away. I'm going to go back to your other banner so people know you're reading from. Go for it. Okay.
Okay, so this is literally just the very beginning of One Road In. I won't read too much because I don't want to give too much away, but here is a bit of a snippet. Holidays always seemed to have the same impact on Mandy. She'd build them up, hundreds of blocks of excitement placed on top of one another until they'd inevitably fall down. Holidays were almost always better in her head than in real life. The way they turned out never lived up to the expectations she developed of them. Come on, Grouch, put the book down. She raised her eyes over the top of the paperback to make eye contact with her dad. His face glowed a warm tinge of orange through her wide lens sunglasses. It wasn't that she didn't enjoy holidays at all. That wasn't the case. Mandy might have been 15, but she wasn't entirely neurotic. She enjoyed the time spent with her family away from the greyness of the city, away from the constant chatter about work and money and mundane things like petrol and grass clippings. But at the end of the day, she knew these breaks were mere blips in her everyday life. They could be happy and joyous and blissfully ignorant of the real world and its problems for a week or two. But at the end of the holiday, they'd return to their home with the endless flood of bills and chores. The reality of everything had that knack of breaking into the happiness of holidays and days out. And once it was in, no matter how hard Mandy tried, she was completely incapable of shoving it back out. God, maybe she was a bit neurotic. To Mandy, anyone home? A hand waved across her face, fingers fluttering in front of her eyes. Sorry, what? She said, drawing her head up from the pages of her book. Ice cream, yay or nay, Mans? It's Mandy, and yay, of course, she replied with a grin. You'll always be Mans to me, her dad said, turning his attention to Mandy's younger sister, Christine. I'm just going to skip ahead, because there's loads of dialogue, and I don't fancy doing silly voices. So actually, the first chapter of this, some would argue, would be a prologue, but I would argue is not. And almost none of the characters from the first chapter are recurring, so apologies. The Haig family stood in the shallow water for what could have been minutes, hours, or even longer. Their bodies took on a hollow air, their chests wrenching with every laborious breath, and their eyes widened beyond belief in search of Christine and the creature that writhed from the depths of the trees. The Coast Guard would soon make its way out to the island. They'd be alerted to the family's struggle by the pedalo floating back towards the mainland, a drifting time capsule of their happy holiday possessions. The Coast Guard would be followed by police and volunteers holding heavy-duty silver torches, yellow high-vis jackets draped over their shoulders. There were so many people on the tiny island that Lorraine began to fear it would sink, taking them and Christine, wherever she was, down with them. Surely this many people would find her youngest daughter. How could there possibly be so many of them and they not locate her? The family held on to that idea until they could no longer. They held on to that idea that the youngest member of their family would one day come home. But of course, she never did. There you go.
Loving it. Okay, so something was mentioned in the chat, and I want to toss it up there because I think it's really important. Honestly, the way Hannah did the 1990s setting in One Road Inn was perfect. Really painted the picture without overdoing it. So let's talk a little bit about that. What was that? How difficult was that for you to kind of set it so long ago? I mean, I remember it because I was alive in 1990, but for like the babies out there who weren't, go.
Yeah, I was born in 91, so I arguably I can't really say that I remember that much of it. I actually think the reason I had to set it in 90, because I kind of had to set it in the 90s. I didn't have a lot of choice, and that was because way back, when was it? Maybe like a year ago, I interviewed a serving police officer who worked in the missing persons unit in Bridgend, which is a place in Wales. And initially, One Road Inn was set in the noughties, because like the noughties, the Y2K stuff was doing the rounds, and I was like, gosh, just the Y2K stuff. Like, I don't want it to come back, but here it is. And if there's anything I know a lot about, it's Y2K. So yeah, I was going to set it in Y2K, and he was like, you can't do that. You cannot set it in Y2K. I was like, mobile phones were already too well established. He basically said that the chances of someone of Ben's age going missing and remaining missing was so slim because it just wouldn't be believable. So he said, my advice to you is set it in the late 80s.
Is that the idea?
Yeah.
Okay, so it was like we were too advanced technologically. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of
yeah. So he basically said set it in like the late 80s, early 90s, and that was his advice. And then it kind of hit me that, you know, Stranger Things is that kind of era. Some other things of which I forget are in that era. Ready Player One is the 80s.
Right.
And it kind of struck me that maybe that was a sensible business decision to move it to the 90s.
Yep.
And a lot of things I like are from the 90s. A lot of the music I listen to is from the 90s. But the hardest thing to balance was how many references, how much is too much, how much is not enough. Like, I didn't want people to not know it was the 90s, but I also didn't want people to feel beaten over the head with the fact that it was the 90s.
Right.
And I think I learned a lot of that actually from Ready Player 2, which if anyone has read that, that is just a novel of references. So I learned what not to do from that book.
Oh, okay. I haven't read that one yet, so that you're ahead of me on that.
It's very reference heavy.
Okay. Because the book that jumps to mind for me is Little Fires Everywhere. I don't know if anyone read that one, but Celeste Ng, and it is set in the 1990s, and it is I wouldn't say they beat you over the head with it, but there are a lot of like references that you couldn't have missed if you grew up in America in the 1990s in the Clinton era, because those are most of the references. So, okay, I love that though. That's really interesting. So, Bethany said something above that I want to just touch on real quick, and it was about technology dictating which stories kind of work in fiction. Have you had any other stories where that's been an issue, or where you've kind of had to like think through the lens of like, well, now wait a minute, was this possible, you know, during this time period?
Not well, actually, yes, kind of. So what I'm working on at the minute is a haunted hotel story, not The Shining. And it's very tropey, but I think one of the hardest things for anything, if you're writing it in the modern day, is technology to trip you up. So
Okay.
just remove their ability to use a phone, I suppose. Just cut off the signal, which is really tropey, but
yeah,
you know.
I only ask because it's for selfish reasons. I'm working on a short story that keeps going nowhere, because I'm like, this couldn't, if you have a phone in your pocket that can find anything in a second, like it eliminates a lot of the, it takes away a lot of the urgency of like, you're stuck in the middle of nowhere, now what? Well, basically you just have to walk far enough to get a signal. So it's like that eliminates a lot of the terror. Although I'm new to trying to write scary things, so I'm trying. All right, I love this. I'm writing a post-apoc novel at the moment, and I've intentionally hobbled people to rely on 1980s tech at best for a reason. That kind of makes sense. And then there's a lot of talk about Ready Player 2 happening right now. So clearly, I need
to moan about that later if you like.
Yeah, I
message me on Instagram.
I need to read that and then get caught up. So I'm going to ask you the next question. I think I know the answer because it might be the same as your hobby. But real quick, go ahead and tell me what you think is your writing kryptonite.
Oh, a writing kryptonite. I would say my day job, actually. Yeah, that gets in the way.
I can only imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's good. I thought you were going to say procrastination. I was going to be
Also
like, that one is definitely my, Eva, I'm my writing kryptonite. Me too. Me and my Instagram feed is my writing kryptonite. What is the easiest concept for you to teach a new writer? If someone comes to you and says, you know, hey, give me, if you're mentoring someone, what's the easiest concept for you to pass on to somebody?
Oh, that's a good question. I think that one thing that I get told I do a lot, and one thing I think I would like to pass on to other people, is writing with all five senses, but knowing when to write with all five senses. I love very, very immersive things, and I'm actually quite a fan of some, Richard will hate this, I really quite like some really snooty literary fiction. But a lot of the time that just like drowns you in the senses. So it's knowing when to pick up on each one, but trying to balance them so you're not always using just sight. I love that cough, the Oxford comma. Yes, the Oxford. We believe in the Oxford comma still. Yeah, I do. And also probably filter words, because that was something that I learned the hard way, I think.
That's my biggest struggle, is those words. I go back through, my CPs are like, are we still doing this? And I'm like, yes, I'm working on it. Proper
kneecapping yourself.
That's what I was waiting for. Proper literature. Yes. So that's really interesting. So for yourself, when you're in a bookshop and you're just picking something up for yourself. So what surprises me is you may not necessarily go for the things your readers might think you would. You kind of like some of the more proper literature. Well, really? So that's kind of your thing, or what you might be drawn to if you were just in a shop.
It really, really depends. I go through waves of stuff. I think sometimes I will read nothing but horror. Trying to read Nosferatu at the moment because I've never read it. Yeah, it really, really depends. I do quite like some snooty literature, but I do really like horror. There's a book box that I really like, not sponsored. I wish they would sponsor me. Called the Abominable Book Club book box, which is a proper mouthful. But they're proper horror, and I really enjoy proper horror. Okay. Like old school, like Richard Matheson, Haunted, like Hell House, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But I also love a really corny thriller. I'll read pretty much anything aside from romance. Romance just really scares me.
Really? Okay, that's interesting. I'm not scared of romance. I'm definitely scared of erotica. That's one. Just like, I don't think that's one I'm going to touch.
I'm like a 12-year-old child. If there's a sex scene, I'll be like, No.
Oh yeah. Oh, me too. I'm like, what? I don't even know how that works. Okay. So tell me this. What would you say so we talked about what's the easiest thing. So now what would you tell a writer? What do you think is the hardest thing for you to convince a writer of that's new?
That they're any good.
That's the best answer to that question I think I've had. Imposter syndrome. I don't know why anybody else has that sooner. That's a great answer to that question.
Thanks. It's
Yeah,
a good friend of mine.
I love that. So who did that for you? Who was that person for you that said, you know what, this is really great?
I don't really think I had anyone that did that, but I did. I hate James Herbert. Neil Gaiman, I think. I know, obviously, I don't know him. I wish I did. But my friend Harriet, because she bought me the tiny little book. It's called Art Matters, and it's all about setting yourself goals and envisioning your goals and imagining that you're taking steps towards them. Like what is going to take you one step closer to where you want to be. Don't worry about getting all the way there, but just imagine getting there in small increments.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really great answer. Thank you for that. So what do you think most writers get wrong about publishing in general?
I think it depends. I think that a lot of people still think that if you go the traditional route, you don't have to do your own marketing, which is unfortunately not true at all. Yeah, I think you still hear that a lot.
That's funny.
Yeah, bless them. And what else? I don't know. You do still have that kind of underlying. A lot of people think that self-published is like not the same level as traditional, which in some respects I see why people would have that opinion. But I think we're getting there. I think it's getting there.
Oh, I totally agree. Eva said a comment in our Critique Group Live Facebook post today about this. All right, Eva, I think it was in that, but she was talking about why that exists. And I think she's right, that it really only takes a few people to throw up something on KDP Unlimited or whatever that is, that has like no cover and never been edited or whatever, to drag the whole thing down. But on the flip side of that, there are just as many in TradPub that come out with mistakes and problems and issues. And so I don't think that's a fair analogy. There are people in self-publishing who are killing it. So I think it's just a matter of what you're picking up and what's in front of you. And unfortunately, if you pick up the crappy thing and then you assume that's how it all must be, there are like whole classes in psychology for like what that's called, what bias that is, but I don't have time for that here. But it's a thing. So I think that's the one. So if anybody sees that comment on Eva's, wherever it was beautifully worded and much better than I just fumbled through that. So what would you say is the best money you've spent as a writer?
Oh, twofold. One, editor, even though it's my brother, so he's discounted quite heavily. Two, cover.
Okay, so
anyone
for you, cover is like you feel like that's important.
Yeah, anyone that says don't judge a book by its cover. That's such an old school thing to say. Like, judge a book by its cover. 100%.
I judge them all. I hate to say that. I so do. It's the only thing Heidi Thorne and I just agree on. My friend who does business of publishing a podcast and channel. She's all about like the cover doesn't really matter. In fiction, it totally matters. Like I will not buy your book if I'm like, cover kind of sucks. But maybe I'm just that way. So who knows?
Me too.
This may be the point. She made it again. Self-pub allows access to publish for so many, yes, and it has little to do with their writing skills. I think someday indies will rule the publishing world. Could be. There is a lot of money in traditional publishing, so it's going to take a long time to get through those billions of dollars. But if they keep consolidating into one, then we're going to have one publisher before too long. It's not going to matter. So how long on average does it take you to write a book?
Oh, I guess on average, it's got to be about 12 months.
Okay.
From first draft to finished.
A year person?
Yeah, I'm trying to become that person. Yeah, I want to be that person.
I like that. Yes to all of these points, by the way. I'm seeing them. We were just moving through. So let me ask you this. What does literary success look like to you?
I think I've written this in the beginning of both, like in the acknowledgements of both One Road and number 47. I think if I could just make one person feel something from something I've written, then I would consider that a success. Even if the thing they feel is that they hate it, but they still read it. If it elicited a response, then I consider that a win.
I like that answer. So you're okay making someone uncomfortable, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Writing horror, you're a-okay making someone feel that like icky, like, ooh, feeling a little bit.
Yeah, my favorite kind of horror is like the disquieting, like unnerving. I think eerie is my favorite thing. I'm not like jump scary. I'm not massively gory. But yeah, unsettling is definitely what I aim for.
Same. As a reader, I'm always more afraid of the thing that I feel like I'm seeing coming for the character that's just oblivious to
Mhm.
what's coming. And I'm like, oh, don't do that. Don't. Oh, you did it.
Yeah, you
Okay,
did it.
you did it. So now to an Oxford comma level question of spicy level. Do you believe in writer's block? Not have you had it. Do you believe in writer's block as a thing?
Yeah, yeah, I think I do.
Has
I
it ever
think
happened to you, or have you had to overcome it?
yeah, I think it has. I think I can already hear Kent in my head. It's not real. I think that it might maybe the definition of writer's block is what we struggle with rather than whether or not it's a thing. But that's just syntax and semantics, and I don't care. I think it's a thing. I think the worst I've had it, as will probably be for a lot of people, is probably at the beginning of lockdown part one, way back when, just where you were faced with all this time and all this freedom, and I can't go anywhere, and I'm just sat here surrounded by books. So this should be the most productive time of my life, and it was anything but that. I think it was then for me. I was like, if I can't write now, when can I write?
Gotcha. So it was kind of like, yeah, this perfect uninspired stretches of time. Yes, yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's amazing how like impending death kept just shot my creative energies.
Yeah.
Well, with on that happy note, I am going to switch over to my personal favorite part of this whole thing, which is the rapid fire. Are you ready?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So as we discussed before, feel free to pass. I'm going to give you full screen. So it is all you, and we're going to jump into the rapid fire. Tell me when you are ready.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay. What sin are you most willing to forgive?
Is jealousy a sin?
Yes.
Yeah, that.
Okay. What are you reading currently?
Oh, I am reading. Oh my God, what's it called? Everyone in this room will someday be dead.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yes. What's your favorite word?
Oh, effervescent.
That is a wonderful word.
I have one tucked away.
What's your favorite curse word?
Oh, oh no, there's so many. It's probably not technically a curse word, but British people say it a lot. Ruddy.
Oh, ready. Okay. So what does ready mean? Like what is
Same as bloody, like bloody hell.
Oh,
Oh, ruddy hell.
okay. Cool. So
Bloody
ready.
hell, Harry.
I like that. So what annoys you the most?
Oh, indifference.
Morning person or night owl?
Neither.
What is the best feature you have?
Oh, I think I'm approachable.
Huh. What is your biggest vice?
Chocolate.
Me too. How do you define happiness?
Being with someone you.
What sin are you most likely to commit?
Oh, gluttony.
Me too. What chore do you hate doing?
Oh, all of them. I'm terrible at chores.
What's your least favorite word?
Oh, oh no. Okay, hang on. Oh, portion.
Yeah, me too. Control. Put control behind that, and I hate it.
Mm.
What is the most useless curse word?
Oh, crap.
That's a good one. If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
I would control time.
Me too. I'd still be 30. So real quick, what would you say is something that can always make you smile?
My other half.
Where is one place you would visit if given the chance?
My grandparents' old house.
What is your best virtue?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I'm going to pass that one. I don't know.
That's cool. What would you say is your current addiction?
Current addiction is anime.
Good. And how do you define success for yourself?
happiness.
Great answers. All right, I'm going to run through and see who answered along with you because a few of them usually do. Oh, we're back to I don't believe in the block. It should be called something else. Fair. I have too many stories to tell before I die. With that. Okay, this was what I was looking for. Plinth.
Oh, I love that word.
Okay, so what's that one mean? Is that a British one too?
Plinth. It's like isn't that like a podium, a plinth?
Oh, okay. Okay, didn't know that one. Learning something every day. Okay, yeah, I'm with you on this one. Moist. Yeah, I'm the same. Humility. I assume that's the word you like. Oh no, that's virtue. Virtue.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to questions because we have a lot of great questions for you, which I cannot wait to get to. And first up is Maggie. If I can scroll back into the way back times. She asked a question here. What is the one thing you would like to tell first book you?
Don't be afraid, just write it. Don't worry about what you think other people are going to think because they're going to think it anyway. Yeah. I don't know if that's also a just turned 30 lesson. Just do you. Like, don't worry about it.
Yeah. Well, first of all, happy 30. Welcome to our club.
Thank you.
I'm only in it a brief amount of time more, but it's a fun group, let me tell you. I love this one. Why is it not a prologue? And this is about chapter 1.
Yeah, well, it was a prologue, and then my brother edited it, and he said he sent me this horrifying statistic, and then I looked up the statistic, and it was true. I forget the actual statistic, but I think it's something mad, like around half of people don't read the prologue.
Really?
Yeah. So now it's chapter 1.
I did not know that.
A lot of people, even less people read an epilogue.
Really? Because like that's where you get like the after the credits scene.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like the Marvel extra scene.
I can't. Okay, I don't even understand people anymore. All right, I love this. Is there a genre you would not write in, or what haven't you written that you might want to write in?
Okay, a genre that I wouldn't write in: romance or erotica.
Okay.
Probably the only two that I wouldn't, and maybe not Western. I don't know where I would start. Yeah. That feels so far removed from me. What haven't you written that you are interested in? Richard, I'm sorry, man. I really think that I eventually would like to write some snooty literary fiction.
Proper literature.
Anything that makes me like really think about who I am and why I'm here and what I'm doing. I love that kind of stuff.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it. Oh my gosh, the questions are killing me. I'm loving it. Favorite anime?
No, hardest question. Oh no. I love them all equally. Currently watching Sword Art Online, which is very good. And maybe My Hero Academia.
Okay. How about what do you do to refill your creative well?
Watch anime and read a lot.
Only first person or third person for the rest of your life?
First, I think. There's something about first person. I think one of my favorite authors and one of the first authors I read when I was younger that really made me think that I want to have the impact that she has is Margaret Atwood, and a lot of her stuff is in first.
I am obsessed with Margaret Atwood.
Me too.
Just FYI. So okay, that's because I'm afraid to write in first person. I need to, but I'm terrified of it, and I bet that's why your claustrophobia works so well because we're in there.
You're in it.
Yes. So that's something I need to learn. I love this question, Richard Holiday. Why is chapter 1? Oh, we just answered that. Oh God, here we go. Pineapple on a pizza.
Well, see, no. You know only because I do like pineapple and I do like pizza, but I'm a vegetarian, so there's no place for pineapple on a vegetarian pizza.
Oh, you're right, because then where do you get the savory to like balance it out? No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So no tomahawk steak for you then either.
No, I didn't know what that was. I had to Google it.
Flesh popsicle. Yeah, me too. Matte or glossy covers for books?
I think that there is a place for both. I think if you've got an intricately designed cover, then glossy often works more because it picks up on those details. Whereas if you've got a really rich in color one, I prefer matte.
I love that answer. How did you decide between self-pub or trad pub? I
think that every project has a place where I want it to be. And for me, number 47 was just self-pub because I really wanted to learn as much about the process as I could. and I wanted to control absolutely everything. So that was why that one was. One Road In, I didn't necessarily think would be hugely commercially successful, because it was a story I wanted to tell, but it's not massively trendy. It's not, you know, I don't look at the New York Times bestseller list and think, oh, mine fits in there. So I figured that it was safest, really, bit of a naff answer. But again, because I love controlling everything, and then I wanted to work with my friend on the cover. But I do have a series that I am hoping to go trad.
I love that. Okay, cool. Love everything about that. My students agree with pro and epilogues. Good. I love that. Rachel said the prologue hate is stupid. It's included for a reason. I 100% agree.
Yeah.
But I think that's partially because fantasy writer. Happy 30th, Hannah. When is your 30th?
Oh, it was Monday.
Oh,
yeah.
Happy birthday. So you're not a Virgo, though?
No, Libra.
Okay, that's okay. We'll still be friends. We're close enough. We'll still be okay.
Close enough.
I'm one of those people that skip the prologues, not all the time, but I definitely have. Interesting.
Oh.
Okay, Morgan, I just didn't know. That's why my prologue was one page, and yeah. However, read the entire book, people, I tell you. Okay, yeah, I didn't know the prologue skipping thing was a thing, so that's news to me, and good to know, because I love a good prologue. Any plans for hardbacks or audiobooks?
Yes to both of those things. Hardbacks I was going to do for One Road, but Amazon have released, I don't know if they've released them. I think they have. I think they've released hardbacks now. So if you self-publish, you can get hardback. But it's printed directly on the cover, and Snooty Hannah doesn't like that. I like a book sleeve. Yeah, and I didn't really want to go through Ingram, mostly because of the horror show that Bethany went through with Ingram.
I've been hearing about that, and it's incredible. So yeah.
Yeah, so eventually, yes.
Okay. Maybe prologues are seen as snooty?
No.
Okay. I mean, that sounds like a Hot Topic Tuesday I could throw out there and get a fight going. Favorite childhood nostalgic story?
Well, as in a story I love from my childhood. Alice in Wonderland, I think.
Oh, okay. What is your favorite 90s movie? This should be a question I ask everyone, to be fair.
90s movies. I'm actually probably better at 70s and 80s movies.
Okay. Well, give us whatever genre you're best in. Give us your faves.
Alien, which I think is late 70s.
Yes.
90s. I can't even think of any. Oh, the Goofy movie. There you go.
Oh, okay. Fair. Okay. I write what the story calls for. As far as first or third, I like both. Yes. Virgos unite 100%. Hey, Justin, good to see you again. Bethany's got a question for you. What does your family think of your writing?
They're very supportive. My cousin's also a writer, so there's a couple of us. Though he writes very different. No, very different.
Okay.
Fantasy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're fun.
Okay, cool. Would you ever write a retelling?
Maybe. I think if I was to, it would be like a mythological one rather than like a fairy tale one. So either like Chinese mythology or like Greek or something a little bit different. Maybe Norse. Maybe. Yeah, I've never really considered it.
Interesting. Well, this is a question not in the chat, just one I'm asking you. Is there somewhere that you've wanted to set a book that you haven't, or is there somewhere you're going to set a book in the future that you've never been? That's not somewhere you're familiar with.
Space.
Okay. So you've got a little sci-fi bug.
Yeah, I've got a few sci-fi ideas kind of buzzing around.
Perfect. You have excellent sound. Why, thank you. I have a microphone that I just bought, so that makes me feel better about that purchase. Okay, I'm going to now ask some of my questions for you. Do you read your own reviews?
Yeah, I do. I think I read them for a couple of reasons. One, I'm actually, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I'm really thick-skinned. Like I don't mind negative feedback. I don't mind negative reviews. I just kind of like to know what people are thinking. And I think where I used to work was so big on feedback and so big on, changing what you do and iterating how you work based on other people's feedback, that I still do that now. So if I get feedback and I think they've got a fair point, then whatever I write going forward may well bring that feedback in. But the best thing about feedback is you can also ignore it. So
agreed. We didn't talk about this before, but I'm going to bring it up a little bit now. So for your day job, you work in marketing. Is that accurate. And I worked in comms and marketing before I got sick and left work. So I definitely think that's a common thing in a lot of the teams I worked on, is very collaborative with anything communications or marketing related, is very like, share it, see what they think and get feedback. And so I think that's a common thing. But I think it helped, at least for me as a writer, it helped me get comfortable in writing groups a little quicker, I think. And speaking to your thick skin thing, I also think that prepared me for that too. Where it was like, okay, I've written a press release that someone's like, this sucks. And it's like,
100%.
Yeah. So, okay. Love that. Now I want to feedback you. Love writers who can not only handle feedback, but actually want it less. So yeah, I guess give her all the feedback. She's ready.
Yeah,
Web
feel free.
out of the loop often. Apologies. No worries. Did you ever regret a work of yours after it was published? That's a great question.
That's a spicy question. I don't think so, but I wouldn't say I've published enough to be able to answer that question just yet. So maybe in the future.
To play off of that question, is there anything that you'd go back and change or fix in a previously published?
The only thing I would change is probably in number 47, and that would be the formatting, because I detest how the inside of the book looks. Now I know how to do it properly.
Did you do it yourself?
Yeah, number 47, I did it all in Word, and it was absolutely hellish trying to format everything in Word. But this time round, I sucked it up and got Vellum, and it's much better.
What is a story or book you've read that you wish you'd written, and why is it Nightmare Tenant?
Oh, Richard. There are quite a few, I would say. Battle Royale by, I'm just reading it because I can't remember his name, Kushan's Kami. I would definitely, though actually he didn't do very well off that because people hated it, but I love it. And yeah, anything by Neil Gaiman.
He got a giggle out of that. You're welcome, Richard. Always for you. Alrighty, let me, this is another one I like to ask. What was your favorite book from childhood, or what turned you into a reader?
Oh, what turned me into a reader? I don't know if this is embarrassing or not. Maybe it is. I think the first book I read that I devoured really, really quickly, and then just sort of opened up the world of reading to me, was actually The Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown. Okay. I think I was quite a young teenager when I read it, and I was very impressed with myself.
Yeah. Yes. Do you play video games?
I don't. I'm sorry.
I know.
I don't know if I look like the kind of person that does.
I play games on my iPad, but I don't think that counts. Microsoft Word sucks. Agree.
I agree.
I don't. If you want to find someone who really hates Word, you want to connect with Benjamin Milne, who also wrote a wonderful short story that went up this last week on YouTube. You guys should check it out. They're hilariously funny and worth your time. What was your most difficult thing about writing for you? Or what is the most difficult thing you struggle with still in your writing?
Yeah, I think it's all just imposter syndrome again, really. Just convincing myself that what I'm doing isn't good enough. I think a lot of it comes back to the concept for me. I think I'm quite happy with prose and grammar and all that kind of stuff and dialogue. But yeah, quite often I think that I overthink concepts so much that I then convince myself that they're not any good. Yeah.
Well, that's funny because you're very talented. So that's something you need to overcome. What sort of research do you do? How much research do you do? And what do you use as your tools?
So much research. One of my old jobs was a researcher. So I did R&D for a company to work out like new products and new markets and stuff. So I learned a lot in that job about research. For One Road In, I did far more research than I've ever done before. I did the interview with the active police officer in Wales, visited libraries, but, like the archive B bits, which is really fun, definitely recommend. Yeah, and anything online, or like there's a really cool, people probably already know about it and I sound really old, but there's a thing called the Wayback Machine, which is a website that lets you look at websites in the past. So you can drop in like Facebook and look at how it looked 10 years ago or whatever. So that's a good research
tool. That's
tool.
Really cool. I didn't know that was a thing. What's that called?
Hang on, I will find it because it's.
Oh no, sorry. You don't feel like you have to look. That was like, that's fascinating. I can go back and see the Waybacks.
Yeah, it's really good.
I love that. Oh God, the nostalgia of the Wayback Machine. Okay, yeah, I need to get on there because I wrote some horrible blogs on my old blog 100 years ago that I really thought were deleted and gone forever.
Probably not.
Good for me. What has been your most effective form for marketing your books, and how much of that relied on your day job?
I'd say there's probably two things that have been most effective marketing wise. One, word of mouth. And I wouldn't say that's reliant on my day job, but it's informed by my day job. I kind of know that a lot of marketing does come back to word of mouth, no matter how you do it. The other is the PPC side of Amazon, which is definitely informed by what I do in the day to day.
So kind of playing on that, what is that about? What is that? Explain that to me who's not self-pub, so I don't know anything about that. So kind of what is that?
So it's just setting up the adverts inside Amazon KDP.
Okay.
So you can do loads of keyword research using Google Ads.
Okay.
And then you just feed it into the Amazon platform, set up an advert, and then you target people who are searching for words that are related to your book. So for instance, One Road In is a horror book, therefore the biggest phrase I target is horror books or best horror books or that kind of thing.
Cool. Do you lay out your own ads? You create your own ads? All of that you're doing yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Do you use, so what tools do you use? Are you on Canva? Are you using Photoshop? What's your tools that you use to create your marketing materials?
All Canva. I'm a big Canva stan.
Me too.
Yeah.
100%.
I'm not good enough for Photoshop, but Canva is definitely
100% same. I always told people I worked with the graphic designers. I never that
I've managed them. I can't do what they do.
No, I'm colorblind. I'd start there and say I'm colorblind. We're gonna have a problem from that point. I love this. I showed my sister Wayback Machine recently, and she thought I was a god. No, seriously, same. 90s websites were cool. Now they all look the same. Marketing is still in the hands of big money. It takes money to get real traction in marketing. 100% agree with that. 100% agree with that. So what's it been like for you as far as marketing your own books? Do you set a budget for your, like, how do you do that? Do you do per book, or is it like, I'm going to do a marketing push at the beginning of a book and then like Christmas time, or like, how does that work if you control it all yourself, you know?
Yeah, I'm kind of learning that myself at the minute. As Eva has said, is the more money you have, the bigger a player you can be. And there's only really so much of my wage that I can really put towards it. But yeah, I'm trying to do it a bit differently this time around. So number 47, I did a big push when I first launched it. And I did an in-person event, which was amazing, but actually didn't really help on Amazon because I sold all the books in person. So I did sell over 100 on the first day, but because they were all in person, they sort of didn't count for anything on Amazon, which I didn't really care about at the time. So that's fine. But this time around, I'm trying to set up an ad, and as long as it's, as long as it pays for itself initially, that's fine. I won't be like going into like losing money over advertising, but I think I'm just going to stick with consistent advertising and then do like giveaways and stuff around Christmas.
Cool. I'm just going to say this real quick for Eva's point. Social following rarely correlates to higher sales. When they do, it's a unicorn, or they only bought the content creator's book as a fan already. I don't disagree with this. I'm doing a video about this with Heidi Thorne, based on her like 5 years of research on self and traditional published sales for people that have done her survey. And she found that 2%. You can count on 1 to 2% of whatever your following is will purchase your books. So when I tell people grow your platform, grow your platform, grow your platform, the more people you have, that 1 to 2% gets bigger. So we're calling that the formula of sales, is the type of video that's going to be about and what we're talking about in that, but we are going to talk specifically about following and how that correlates to sales. Sorry for that quick plug for our thing. I just saw that and went, whoop, I know something about that we're going to talk about. Amazon or Facebook ads?
I don't have an answer for that. I think I'm testing it at the minute. I would say that there are swings and roundabouts to both of them, because Amazon are generally cheaper. And obviously when someone lands on Amazon, they're more, it's a hot lead, right? So they already want a book or a thing because they're on Amazon. Whereas on Facebook, you're kind of targeting, it's just very different targeting. Amazon is keyword targeting, Facebook is audience targeting. So it depends what you want from the ad. I think if you're on Facebook and you're looking to grow your subscribers, your newsletter, 100% Facebook. But if you're looking purely for sales, then obviously Amazon. I think there is a place for both of them. I'm not entirely sure what that place is just yet, but I'm learning.
Yeah. Hey, it's a curve. Would you ever offer your marketing beta services for a price? This was where I was heading with this, and as a side gig or as a hustle. So yeah.
Maybe. I did consider that. during lockdown 1, way back when. I did consider it, but I think a lot of it is knowing when you're good enough to offer that kind of service. Like I'm good at marketing, but only in the products that I really, really understand. So I don't know that I would feel comfortable. I'd always offer it for free, but probably never. I don't know. Never say never. I don't know.
Yeah. I would encourage you to think about it because it's a great idea. It's all about picking the right goalposts, right? Just like it would be for a client if you were at a marketing or a comms firm. It's all about figuring out what the goalposts are that are reasonable that you could charge for. But your time is worth money, so not for free. Yeah, sorry. Okay, here we go. I have been encouraged. I had encouraging results with some test ads that didn't cost too much. Just out of curiosity, what do ads like? What does an ad run on Amazon? Just if you're wanting to do like a week long ad, are we talking like $50 or like?
Oh, it really depends.
Okay.
It's so dependent on so many things. It depends on how many keywords you want to target. It depends on how much, like what kind of space you're in. Like if you're in the romance space, it's such a competitive space because so many people self-publish romance that the ads tend to be more expensive to run. And I see that a little bit with thrillers. So for instance, I was looking at my keyword performance this morning, and the performance for horror books is like 52 cents-ish.
Okay.
To get someone to click on that ad, or to at least present it in a space where they would be likely to click it. Whereas best thriller books is nearly $5 for them to click on, at which point it's not profitable, so there's no point running that keyword. But it really depends. I normally set mine at around $5 a day, so maybe $25, $30 a week.
Okay, that makes sense. Richard said this is interesting. I've had over 400 downloads of Nightmare Tenant this week on its free week promo, and I didn't spend the earth on ads. That's really interesting. So is it fairly common to see big jumps in downloads when you do free promos? And is the idea loss leader? Is the idea like get someone in, read the book, get into you, sign up for your newsletter, and then market them? Okay. That makes sense.
You want the reviews really. So if you're happy to give it away for free, and when you go through KDP, they do give you up to 5 days a year that you can give it away for free. So you can just get the price. Okay.
I hear a lot of authors talk about their market isn't, and I think knowing what it is helps with marketing more. 100%. In no marketing meeting I've ever sat in do they say, please make a profile for the people you aren't targeting with this product. It's the exact opposite of that. And it should be the same with all of your channels and platforms.
100% agree.
100%. Okay, so just one more thing about the marketing thing, then I'll get off of it, but it's where my brain is and I'm fascinated by it. So do you do a loose kind of plan for yourself that you, I'm assuming it's a marketing plan that you're kind of like testing and sort of trying things as you go. Are you hoping to get to a place in the future where it's a little more solid for each book, where you're like, I know this book, I'm going to do a launch for a push for the launch and then a push at the holidays or certain times that are targeted? Is that kind of where you're heading in the future? Is this sort of the groundwork?
Yeah, 100%. I think I've kind of given myself the first few books to test the waters and see what works for my genre best.
Sure. Yeah.
And then I can build like a more, I don't want to call it static because I don't think marketing is never static. I think something I've noticed off the back of Eva's comment actually is a lot of things in chats are people talking about that like magic formula, like what's the magic formula, what platform works best for you. Unfortunately, even if you work out, for instance, One Road In works best on Amazon, Number 47 might work best on Facebook. Even if they're like a similar product, they're not necessarily going to work the same way. So I think being flexible is absolutely something I want to keep doing. But I'm hoping now that the world is opening up again to do a lot more in-person stuff as well, because that always works. That's really good for networking and finding new readers, 100%. I think.
100%. I have a friend who is a traditionally published author here in the United States, and she's had some pretty big success. But the thing she will be the first one to tell you is that she always sells more books at in-person events, and she jokes it's hard to say no to someone's face. So when you're sitting there with a table of books, it's hard for people that come for you to be like, oh, you know what, I'm not going to buy that. So
100%.
I think we've all felt that. How do you think? So do you think self-publishing has been as impacted by the events of the last year and a half as TradPub has been?
Potentially. I haven't really seen any statistics or like data for it, but my gut feeling is because so many people had all this free time, obviously there were statistics last year that said that a lot more people did self-publish than ever before. So that obviously makes the space a lot more saturated, which means adverts are more expensive, which means Amazon had that massive delay for ages where it was months and months for people to get their proof copies. So I think everything has been impacted. I would say that traditional is probably being impacted a little bit more, just because obviously they've got overheads and like the traditional infrastructure. But yeah, I'd say there's definitely still been an impact.
For what it's worth, self-pub friends, Bloomberg, I think I read on Monday, was talking about the paper shortage, and it is going to continue for the next 19 months. So at least. So I'd be prepared for periods where proofs may be laid and stuff, you know, because again, I think that's a thing out there looming. So talk to me a little bit about this. So you kind of are your own marketing, you're your own PR, you're kind of all of the things. So how do you manage it all? So how do you manage your platform? You're on YouTube, you're on Instagram, you're on Facebook. Do you use scheduling or how do you kind of keep yourself in front of your audience and your readers?
Theoretically, I use scheduling. Sometimes I don't, and I kind of slip up and end up taking a 2-week break that lasts 6 weeks. So I need to get back on YouTube. Yes, Bethany, I promise I will. But yeah, when I do use those apps, I use things. Actually, Canva has a really nice inbuilt one now. So if you pay for the premium service on Canva, which I do because their stock footage and stock photos are amazing, then there's a scheduler in there. Also things like Trello. I do not use a spreadsheet.
Because I had to leave it up there until you
until I noticed it. No, I quite like Trello. I like the more interactive soft edges. I like soft edges and some nice UX, not Excel.
Is it a hated task because of your work? Like, is the social media part a little bit like a work extension?
It can be. I think it goes through peaks and troughs. Like when it's doing well, I really, really enjoy it. But when it's a dry patch, like no. And actually, weirdly, I'm trying to change it this year, but a time that I normally really struggle with is November, which is interesting because that's when people are doing nano. So it's when people have loads to talk about and loads to post videos about, but I don't generally do nano. I don't really go in for it. Right. So I kind of struggle to like A, think about what to do, and B, compete with all the noise that is nano. Yep. November always intimidates me.
Yeah, I'm expecting a huge dip in views in November because I don't blog and I'm not doing nano. So
I don't want to blog.
But oh my gosh, who wants to? I mean, I don't like to watch myself around my house doing anything. Why would I want other people to watch it? But that's just me. So, quick question for you: what would you say is your favorite underappreciated book and author? And they don't have to be like the same. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. Favorite underappreciated author is a guy called Mark Stay. He's a British author. He writes fantasy and sci-fi. Yes, Martin, do it. I think he is very underappreciated, but he's done so much. Like he's done so much all over the place that I don't think he's really formed like, this is who I am and I'm here to do this. But I think he's getting there, and I'm excited to see him do that. He's traditionally published, but yeah, he's on the rise. Yeah. So if you like fantasy, check him out. Underappreciated book. I don't really know if I can call it underappreciated because I just don't think I'm in the right space to know whether or not a lot of other people like it. But there's a really graphic horror novel called Tender is the Flesh, which is about a disease that renders all animal meat completely inedible. So people start turning to cannibalism, and then it turns into like farming, and it's way out there. It's definitely one of the weirdest things I've read, and I don't hear many people talking about it. But if you've got a strong stomach, go for it.
Sounds kind of fascinating though. So
very dark. And it's from an Argentinian author, so it's just a really interesting perspective.
Yeah, I bet. Mark Stay writes fantasy science fiction. Okay, good to know. I love the shout out. Trello is like an online Kanban board, which I don't know what Kanban is. I've tried it, didn't work for me. Kanban is I'm assuming it's like a Trello or one of those that.
Yeah, Kanban is just it's like the 3 list things. It's to do, doing, done.
Gotcha. Richard has Flash Aha that is live this evening in 2.5 hours. And Richard, I will be there as soon as I'm done with this, guys. I am going to have moles removed to see if they are cancerous. So as soon as that's done, I will be on your stream, Richard. Apparently 2021 has not been enough of a roller coaster for me just yet.
Mm.
I will be there, Richard. Yes, so people are telling you they will be there. Richard's Flash is in 2.5 hours for everybody. Be sure and check out his channel for that. And the link is in the discussion box. If you should want to click through, you should. What is the most unethical practice in publishing?
Oh, wow, that was a curveball. The most unethical practice in publishing. I think I have a few answers, to be honest. One is the fact that the majority of large publishers do not disclose their sustainability data, so you don't know where the paper's really coming from. It might have that little tree printed on the back, but there's actually no way that you know it's coming from responsible deforestation. And in and of itself, deforestation is not ethical. So how you can call it ethical deforestation, I don't quite know. And publishers not taking enough responsibility in putting a wider variety of authors in front of people.
Yeah, I love those answers. I think the one that is sticking out to me and it's all trad pub. I don't really have anything for self pub except for maybe that Amazon's turning into like a pay for play, which is the only negative thing I see there. But I think the other thing in trad pub that playing off of your diversity thing, which that is a thing for sure, no doubt. But I think the other thing that really sucks is I have two friends that recently signed deals within the last year. Both of their deals had non-disclosures on how much they were paid. That's a problem. So yeah, so that to me is a new thing that's happening and it's not cool. And it's in response to the publishing paid me hashtag last year.
I was going to say that was Matt Haig, wasn't it? Because he kicked that off. Yep. I remember that.
Yep, and it became a movement. I mean, people got on the spreadsheet that was shared and started putting their advances and talking about it. But the idea that they're now like putting it in the contract that you can't disclose that or have legal ramifications, that's pretty shady, because I know y'all are making billions of dollars and I know you're not paying it to the authors. So, but whatever. Okay, I love this. Also, what is Hannah's most unethical practice? A tomahawk.
Yes. I get preachy about the environment but still eat cheese.
Oh, okay.
Is that unethical? I feel like it probably is.
I was going to ask, so you've never done vegan? You've just stayed vegetarian?
Yeah.
Is it cheese? Is that the thing?
It's cheese.
Same.
Yeah.
I've been vegan for 4 years, but I'll tell you, I can't, I'm yet to be able to walk past some melted brie that I'm not going to get with a cracker and some jam, guys. Listen. All right. So what was the first book that ever made you cry? I did not know that Amazon owns Goodreads. So
it does.
It
does.
Awesome.
Yeah. First book that made me cry. I'm not actually sure there is one. I'm not a big crier.
Okay. No, that's fair. I'm not really a crier either. So I haven't had a book made me cry yet. Well, that's not, I guess I've had one, but would you ever write fiction for kids or in a younger category?
Maybe. I think potentially middle grade, just because I think that's when most people fall in love with writing and reading.
Books.
Yeah, and I just love the idea of it just being whimsical and full of magic and color and just it's just the exciting time to write for kids, I think. Yeah.
You'll make me cry, Eva, I promise. No, I agree with you. That's entirely the reason I write for little people is I became a lover of books as a middle grade reader. And yes, I want to capture them whilst they're young. Did you read any of that, just out of curiosity, because horror genre, did you read any of the like R.L. Stine books or any of his like kind of Goosebumps, any of that when you were little, or were you past that by the time you were, because it sounds like you read up quite a bit.
I think I did. Weirdly, actually, as a child, I hated horror. I couldn't watch R.L. Stine. I hated Goosebumps. I hated being made jump. I don't know if anyone remembers, there was this game called it was Buckaroo, and then this pop-up pirate game. And anything that makes me jump, I hate it. I just can't be made jump. That makes me cry. Yeah, so no, not really. I did read a couple of R.L. Stine's. I think I read Carrie quite young, but I never watched any of it.
Oh, Carrie's the film I liked better than the book, but
me too. I don't really like epistolary novels, so
yeah. Same. This question, I don't know who this. Hello, Jetpack, and welcome. I'm not sure we've met you. This might be one of yours. If you had to sneak a parrot through airport security, how would you do it?
Can I pretend that it was oh gosh, I don't know. How would I do it?
Because you couldn't put them in a suitcase because they need to breathe, I would assume.
Yeah, die. I would either pretend it was animatronic. Yeah, or it was like a support parrot or something.
Oh, I didn't even think of support parrot. That's the cheat right there. Chicken breast and cheese is my total diet on keto days. I did keto by accident. Oh, cheese. This is probably, I was like, how did we get here? Cheese. Carrie was memorable, period. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And Richard brought up the stand, which is over on my bookshelf right now. So I was like, oh, I should go get that and pull that off for him. How about this? What would you like to write in the future that might surprise folks that read your stuff?
I think probably the literary fiction. I don't think a lot of people would see that coming. But then if you met me in person, I don't think a lot of people see the horror coming. Yeah, I don't think I read horror as a person.
This sounds delicious, Justin. The parrot is no more. It's joined the choiry. It's an ex-parrot. Oh. Have the parrot be in a Richard Curtis rom-com and you're fine. All right. What are the most common traps that you see authors fall into?
Oh, probably the most common, I think maybe two. One is editing before you've actually finished the first draft. Stop doing that. Just finish on finishing. Focus on finishing. That's it. And the second one, I probably see this more on like Facebook groups and stuff, on forums, on Reddit, rather than on YouTube and Instagram. But people having their covers designed and stuff when they've only written like 10 pages. Like, don't do that. That seems such a common thing on Facebook, especially if you join any like fiction writing groups.
Yeah, I've actually just noticed people like buying the cover before like the book.
Yeah,
even like outlined, and I'm always like,
I'm not sure it should come first.
Yeah, well, I know. I'm just like, that's interesting. That's interesting. I absolutely love this. Listening to authors' advice before finish and or over their target readers' advice. Yeah, that's show don't tell is the old advice.
Yeah, I think there is a balance to that.
I think it depends on the genre.
Yeah,
I think it depends on what the genre demands or expects. If I'm sitting down to a romance that I'm trying to get through in a day, and I'm in a world that takes 400,000 characters or words, I'm probably going to not finish it. Yeah. So, okay. Sorry about that. That was my own personal hates. So what advice do you think you would give someone who is wanting to, because it sounds like you're headed for a hybrid future for publishing. So what would be your advice to somebody that maybe wants to take your path or kind of has watched the way you've done your career, your writing career, and says, I want to kind of follow that? What would your advice be?
I think just don't knock it till you try it. I think just don't be afraid to try a bit of everything. I think there are bits that I'm learning from self-publishing that I want to carry forward, but maybe, you know, TradPub can get to places that I know that I can't get to on my own. So just knowing those limitations, but not being afraid to just try stuff.
How do you tackle your editing process, and what is your editing process?
I wish I had an editing process. My editing process is try desperately to stay focused and edit and not get bored. I don't edit. The first edit, I don't tend to do in order. So because I found with number 47, that the second edit, after I'd made some kind of order out of what number 47 was, I had loads of energy and loads of verve for like maybe the first half of the book. And then I was bored and I just didn't want to edit anymore. So I just lost all enthusiasm for it. So I ended up starting again like 3 times. And every time I did it, the first chapter was getting so much attention, but then the back end of the book wasn't getting any. Yep. So I tend to now flip it. So I'll start with the last chapter, edit that, get to the middle, and then stop, and then go from the beginning all the way through.
That's brilliant. I'm actually going to suggest that to several of my TradPub people, because a common thing with anybody I've even baited for that's doing TradPub, your first 3 chapters are always your strongest. And we know why, because that's all you think an agent's ever going to see. And guess what? When they ask for the full, they look at the whole thing. So That's really great advice. Richard says, my editing process is very linear. I set objectives for what to achieve with each pass, and I just can't, I can't jump around the edit. I don't know if I can. I haven't in the past, so I'm going to try your method, actually, because I think it would help me too. So that's really smart. I try using suggest, don't show instead of show, don't tell. Okay.
I like that.
I do too. I know authors who have purchased dozens of covers and don't even have an idea of the story to go with it. Like, yeah, I'm like,
It's artwork at that stage, surely.
oh yes, Barrett's back. I know that needs its own channel, literally. Yes. Well, let me ask you this: would you ever write in nonfiction?
Oh, no.
So
No, probably not.
Anything that you feel like you'd want to impart in that way?
No, I don't think so. I think the thing I struggled with most when I first joined Authortube, and I probably still do a little bit, which is probably some of the reason I haven't posted in a long time, is that I feel weird giving people advice when it's only me that's tested my own advice. I don't feel like I can say, this is how you should write a book, and this is how you should edit, and this is how you should publish, and this is how you should advertise, because I just don't feel like I've had enough experience in those things to be able to impart that knowledge.
Yeah.
So I don't think I would touch nonfiction with a barge pole.
That's fair. For what it's worth, I would eat up any content maybe it's not saying this is how you should do it, but just kind of like, this is what I learned, or like, hey, this is, I'm dying for someone to do the, like, I did Amazon ads for my book for X number of weeks, and this is what happened. Like, I want to see the behind the scenes. Again, Richard, with the back end, I want to see the, like, behind the scenes, because I don't have an Amazon, what's it called? Author, like, where yeah, like where you can get in and see all the, like, cool stuff, like stuff I'd love. So I'm dying for somebody to, like, show me, like, give me that backup behind the scenes, and like, what happens when you do a promo and what works, what doesn't. But no, I totally get that. I have, I think, 14 videos when I early started that I thought the advice thing was what you were supposed to do. And now I cringe when I have to go back and watch them. So they are the lowest playlist on my page. So yeah, I feel that. And I wish some of the people who have published many books that are doing just that would stop.
Yeah.
All things I'd like to write nonfic about have been done to death. That's fair. Some great nonfics I've read are Midnight in Chernobyl. You said that when we were live. I need to read that one. Dead Wake. Agreed. Really liked how they talk not just about the event, but the historical context around them. Oh, would you ever write historical fiction?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess technically One Road In is historical fiction.
Oh, yeah. Is it a period drama?
I'm wondering, did you make it a little bit more proper literature than the typical with doing
not
that?
At all.
Colin Clark, with me, nonfic is usually true crime or psychological related.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about where I go with nonfiction. I love all the let's fix yourself books. So I have
I'm terrible at reading those.
I have a whole shelf. My husband loves them. So he'll be like, you know what we should try? I have a whole shelf of Cesar Millan. We don't have a dog. Haven't had a dog for 2.5 years. He bought 2 Cesar Millan books this year. I'm like, I don't understand.
Are you getting a dog for Christmas?
I've tried. So I keep trying, and no puppy. What about steampunk? Colin's doing a really great steampunk series right now. Any interest in getting in the steampunk game?
Probably not, though I do find Colin's videos very interesting. I think I would, if I was going to go down that kind of aesthetic kind of route, I think my kind of side of that coin would be cyber rather than steam.
Okay.
I'm much more into the like hard sci-fi stuff than I am fantasy.
And so what is the line between sci-fi and cyberpunk? Like, what is, like, how do we define that? What is the difference there? Do you know? Or what
Nope.
is it? Okay.
No idea. I don't know the proper definition, and if anyone does in the comments, they're going to yell at me. But to me, I think cyberpunk is very like about like body mod and like robots and AI, and though AI is sci-fi too, so there's like it's a huge blur.
There's so much overlap. I mean, I'm waiting for like the Venn diagram in one of like the videos of where I can see like where all the overlap is, because I'm like,
you should make that.
That's interesting. I love that. Hello, Megan. Good to see you. I'm glad to hear the move went well. Just saw that you got moved and settled. Congratulations. Ask Colin was the response. Yes, well, he's typing out the answer now, I guarantee.
Yeah.
So now tell me this, is there, if you do decide to go the trad pub with the series, would you seek a British agent, or would you try to go for an American? Have you even thought that far or considered it?
Yeah, I have thought about it a bit. So I think the series that I'm writing is dystopia. It's just like, the way I explain it is like the Philosopher's Stone trope, but reversed. So rather than humanity searching for the means to live forever, it's actually searching for the means to end life, because they've successfully found the means to live forever, but now they've realized it's not all it's cracked up to be. So they want to do it the other way around. I think I'd potentially go American for that. Mostly because the things I've read that have influenced what I've written, and the things I've read that I think the book would fit with, are American. So like Scythe is obviously American, and all the big, like Divergent, though it isn't YA. I'm not planning for it to be YA, but it could be.
I mean, yeah, I love the YA, but again, I'm always looking for an adult that will give me a great adult story. Would you ever publish under a pen name?
Yes.
I didn't even think to ask that. So Hannah is your real name?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm actually slightly regretting that because of working in the industry I work in. Quite a lot of what I do, I wish my name wasn't attached to. So although I work in finance, it's in crypto, which lots of people have some very strong opinions about, which is totally valid. Me too. So I regret writing under my real name now because I don't have that division between my day job and writing.
I said to Adam last night, same thing. No one's done it yet. But when I worked in my past life in communications, I worked for a lot of people and did a lot of candidates and campaigns and things that people would not only surprise them, but they wouldn't like it. And I had to eat. So sorry, guys. Bills. Cyberpunk. Here we go. Cyberpunk. Read Willem Gibson's Neuromancer. He invented it. Okay, cool. Very cool. What's the R? Oh, that's a good question. What is? Yeah. Can you want to tell us, or do you want to keep it private?
Oh, it's not private. I don't care. But I think it'd be funnier if you guessed.
If I guessed. Oh, I hope. Is it Richard?
No, that would be perfect.
I don't know. Ryan? Maybe?
No.
Trying to think. Hannah. Trying to think of our names. Rourke is a popular girl name here. Female.
No,
name.
I've never heard that name over here.
Oh, I love the name Rourke. R-O-A-R. Renee?
No, they're also very pretty. It's a lot more boring and incredibly British than that. Think Titanic.
Rose. Oh my gosh. Now, would you have had room for him on that door? That's my question.
Yeah, the door was massive.
Huge. Like, what was wrong with her? The selfishness. Yes, Rose, it was. Hey, I don't think I saw you come in, Shannon. Thank you for popping in. Good to see you. Rachel, no, it's Roxanne. Now, of course, all the R names.
Oh, Roxanne.
Love it. I mean,
strong name.
It's the movie. So interesting. So regretting it a little bit, but not terribly.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, I didn't make this connection either. Was that on purpose?
No. So I actually wanted to do Rosewood. Also not because of the name, just because I think I was thinking about trees. My dad's a timberman, so he talks about trees a lot. And he mentioned Rosewood, and I was like, that sounds like a really nice town. And then until the last edit, it was Rosewood. And then someone said to me, you do know that Pretty Little Liars is set in Rosewood. Like, oh no, that's where I know where that's from.
Yeah.
So
that's fascinating. Okay, interesting. Oh, this is a side note question. So your husband, real quick, how did you guys meet? Were you like uni, high school? Where did you find each other?
University. So we didn't study the same thing, but we studied kind of parallel things, and then we met there, and he's a musician and I was into music, so.
Cool. Oh wow, they're getting into that deep. I'm sorry, Shannon, I'm sure you did. The chat got ahead of me when I was trying to do too many things. So would you live anywhere else besides the UK?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, we want to kind of trial it a little bit. So both of our jobs are very remote. So I just work from home. Dan works from home. So we're looking at potentially just choosing a random European city and just going to live there for a month, just see how it goes.
That's cool. That's really cool. Any fur babies?
No, I wish I did. We live in a flat.
So. Let me send you a shelf full of Caesar Milan books.
Yay.
Don't you worry.
The second I get a garden, yes.
Barrett does need an assistant. And a driver and a cook and a housekeeper. They could give you a list of all the things Ricky says I don't do. So you're not a vlogger. We won't ever see you doing vlogs.
Not properly. I kind of dabble, but I'm not particularly good at it. So
the person who I think is really, really good at vlogs that I don't think does nearly enough is Bethany Bowtop. I've watched several of hers. Entertaining. She's got lots of great B-roll. Anytime there's a puppy, I'm in. So, you know, Bethany, if you're listening, feed my need. So you're not a nano person. You're not going to be doing nano.
I don't think I'm going to be doing nano. However, because I don't have a deadline in mind, I might do it just for the fun of it. And I think I might enjoy it more because I don't have a deadline in mind. So maybe.
Agreed. What do you think 2022 has in store for you and your writing career?
It has another horror self-pub, which was going to be the end of this year, but I've decided not to stress myself out that much. So it's going to be next year. And that's the hotel one. And it also has planning and at least writing one of a trilogy.
Cool. I love that. So CP wise, how did you find your CPs?
CP? Critique partner. Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
I just stumbled across Bethany, really. That was it.
Oh, really? You guys just fell into it. I have some ideas for vlogging soonish. I've been in a YouTube slump. I love Hannah's book reviews. I agree with that wholeheartedly. I watch them religiously. Yes, I watch, come back to me, YouTubers. I'll be all over your channels. So come back.
Yeah, I'm on it. Yeah. CP wise, basically, I don't have any I think the only one that I can really call a proper CP is my brother. He's probably the first person that reads everything. And vice versa, because he's a poet, so I always get his poetry first.
Oh, I love that. So if we were to do a poetry panel, you wouldn't want to be a guest?
Probably not. You can get him on, though.
Okay, well, that's good to know. We'll keep that in the back of the mind. And so this is another side question. So in the future, with your future writing projects, do you, and especially since you're going hybrid, if you were agented, do you see yourself pushing your agent to try to sell foreign rights to your self-pubs? Like in markets they're not sold in?
Yeah.
Because I'm not really sure, this is my stupidity, but I don't quite know where the reach is. I'm assuming Amazon's everywhere.
Yeah.
Are there markets that you can't penetrate through without, being able to sell to like a specific country or something? Or I don't know how that works. So
I don't know. Amazon is in most places. There are a few countries that aren't included. I don't really know how all that works, to be honest. That would be something to research.
I'm just curious how that works. I saw another self-pubbed person who recently was agented, and their excitement about it was just that they were going to be selling some foreign rights. And I was like, I guess I assumed when you self-pubbed, you didn't have to worry about that, but I guess maybe. So talk to me a little bit about your in-person kind of stuff. What sort of stuff are you hoping to do, and kind of what sort of opportunities are there in the UK for you to kind of, or actually all over Europe, because you're probably not limited to just the UK. So like where all would you go, and what sorts of things are you wanting to do in person?
I think what I want to do in person is mostly just in my hometown initially, just to kind of get a feel for it, and then start moving out maybe to London and that kind of thing. But I'm really lucky where I come from. Folkestone is very, very arty, and we've got a few big writing groups, lots of big art movements, lots of film kind of groups. So I want to do some in-person stuff with them. Got a couple coming up in a couple of weeks' time, like Meet the Author events. Really good question. Lots of signings and things in my local area. I'm just really lucky that where we're from, our town is so creative, and it's kind of known for that. So a lot of people come from the neighbouring towns to Folkestone because it's known for being so arty. So I'm just in a really good place for it. Yeah,
really cool. So would you be open to, like, if there was a conference or something in the stateside, let's say, that you could hop on, would you do?
Gosh, yeah, if I could get over there, and if I could pay for it.
Okay, fair. Okay, I'm gonna ask Richard's question. Would you ever adapt your own books to screen? Okay.
Maybe.
Okay, which is weird considering I'm very introverted. Okay. Following this question, Megan's question, which I love, who would be your choice for your main character? Or Ben, I guess, either one.
Yeah, I think I've probably pictured someone as Sadie more than I have. Have I? Yeah, probably. So Sadie I have in my head as a bit of like a Saoirse Ronan kind of character.
I'm gonna have to Google this right now.
She's Irish. Not that Sadie was Irish, she's just the kind of person that I think would maybe play.
You said Ronan? Oh. Okay. Oh, yes, I know her. I've seen her in a few things. Okay, yes. Exciting. All right. Sorry, guys. I'm slow to the party of who that was. Bethany says, I want to meet my writer friend so badly. Agreed. Same 100%. Would you want to write your own script for an adaptation?
Yeah. So I can probably say a little bit because it's all indie anyway. But I've got a friend locally who is she's actually a documentary film producer, filmer, videographer, and she floated it a while back. But it would be number 47 to potentially do as an indie.
Interesting. I love that. Okay, that's really exciting. Please keep us posted on all of that.
Yeah,
that's
I will do.
Exciting. Does that intimidate you at all? The screenwriting process, or figuring out the adaptation, or and where are you going to go? Are you going to go to the original Save the Cat?
Probably, actually. Yeah, I don't think it intimidates me. I'm not sure if it should. I don't think it intimidates me more than, like, I think it just excites me really because it's something I've not done before. And I'm lucky enough that I've got my friend who has kind of dabbled in it before. And I've also got another friend who is a screenwriter and has had stuff done. So I kind of have the support there to have a bash at it. It's very early days, so it might not happen, but yeah.
I say put it out in the atmosphere and hope that it does. We were talking about audiobooks earlier. Would you voice them yourself?
No.
Okay.
No, but I am looking into doing them.
Interesting. What does that process look like? So I'm assuming it's like a casting, but really the material itself is written, right? So it's not like that. It's just a matter of getting someone to record it, get it to you, and then you put it all together. Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah, it depends how much control over it and how much budget you have. So there's a website called ACX, I think it's called, where you can basically send in your material, and then depending on your budget, they've got a massive cast of people that you could choose from. But I know a couple of people who have done it very differently to that, and they've gone out and found someone that they wanted to actually voice it, and then they've done it completely in-house. So you can also do that, and I would potentially go that route. It depends. I think I would consider reading it myself, but I think I sound quite like monotone when I read stuff out. So it surprises me when people say like, "Oh, you've got a really nice like narrating voice."
Yeah, no, I really liked your reading earlier. I thought you have a great voice.
Oh, thanks. I know, I just hear it differently, I guess. But because the other half is a musician, we've got the setup. If I wanted to, I could do it. Yeah, I could. I just know how long it would take, which is why I haven't done it.
So what is the process like once you have it filmed and together? Is it just Audible? Is it easy to get on, or is it tough to get on an Audible or somewhere? Is it just an upload situation?
I don't honestly know, to be honest. I know Kent is quite far along in this journey because he's recording his own.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's just a case of making sure that it fits with Audible's and ACX's
or whatever.
Like, yeah, their format, and then you can kind of just go for it, I guess. But I haven't really researched it enough to know exactly what that looks like.
That's amazing. Well, I am loving this chat. This was absolutely phenomenal. I am going to give it over to the audience. If anybody has any last minute questions, I've gone through my whole list. If you all have anything else for Hannah, throw it out there. Otherwise, I'm going to turn it over to Hannah to just clean up the evening with us and send us off in a better mood than we arrived. So if you've got something for Hannah, toss it in chat. Otherwise, I am turning it over to you to bid everyone adieu.
Oh, well, this has been really, really nice. You've been very welcoming. I'm not a particularly nervous person, so I don't really feel nervous, but you made sure I wasn't, and that was lovely. I've had a really nice time on your channel. Yeah, let's all go to Richard's Flash thing, which sounds dodgy.
Yes. Oh, it's so much fun. Have you not done it yet?
I did it. I did that 1 week with you.
Oh, that's right. You were okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Adam Stevenson has been all over me to do it again. Oh, sorry. Real quick. Most overrated anime.
Oh no.
Question.
I love them all. I don't know. What's your most overrated?
Oh, now see, if I do this, this will be like the Oxford comma thing I threw out yesterday. I didn't love Airbender. So.
Okay. Interesting. I mean, actually, you know what? I don't really like Pokemon.
Oh, no. Yeah, no.
Not my jam.
So, yeah, I mean, I could lose a bunch of subscribers today just from that, being like, what? How dare you? But what are you going to do? So yes, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate this. I know I was kind of hounding you by email for a couple of weeks.
I
So
need handling.
a royal pain in your bum. But this was wonderful fun, and I can't thank you enough for coming and spending time with us. Please be sure and tap on Hannah's links in the description box below. I'm going to remind everyone what we were talking about with reviews. So if you check out the book, please, please, please review. Even if it's just a starred review, it will be more than just doing nothing. I'm going to throw out one last question real quick. Do you prefer silence when writing or music? And if so,
I never have a straight answer. I never have a straight answer to these things. It depends what I'm working on.
Yeah.
Hardly ever proper silence. I quite like editing to white noise, which makes me sound like a serial killer. But if I'm writing something atmospheric, I need the atmosphere. So something like Agnes Obel. I don't know. You should go check her out. It's like folk, but like Danish. It's really dark.
Seems to be the consensus.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It's project to project, so I feel you on that one. I would absolutely love to have you back. So we'll find some excuse to collab together again in the future. As you have new releases and things, please let me know. I will absolutely shout them out for you on all of my platforms and do what I can to promote you. I cannot wait to read One Road In. I am finishing Danette Tillery's beta read book, Monique's beta read, and Moon Petrie's beta read in the next week and a half. And then I will get on to reading for fun again. So anyway, I'm in beta read mode, but as soon as I'm done with that, One Road In will be there and you will get my review. Please, everybody, support Hannah. I appreciate you all. Stay healthy and well. Do not forget about Flash Aha with Richard. It's great fun. You're going to love it. And with that, I wish you all the best. Stay healthy and well, and we'll see you soon. Bye, everybody.